Can't see any hands in the air, no one coming through. So let's call this grid as we see it. Ian Blake in pole position on the right. It's a thumbs up from Johnny Goddard. On the front row with him is Joe Holmes. Steve Brown is on grid 3 in kart number 1. Brandon Williams is 4th. Jack Harding on grid 5. Pete O'Connor, Dan Healy, Parmveen Najjar, Chris Powell and Tom Dix, I think, is your top 10. Here we go then. It's Ian Blake on the left as we look. Joe Holmes looking at his feet. They're going through to take the start. There's a hand in the air there. People not happy with that grid. But they've started. Will it be seen through to the end of this lap, or will they wave it off? I can see a yellow flag out at start finish. They've all gone up to turn 1. I can see no abort flag. Somebody who went off at turn 1, but leading Ian Blake ahead of Steve Brown. Jack Harding in 3rd, Pete O'Connor. Joe Holmes, a poor start, finds himself down in 5th place. Harding pushing hard from the start, trying to get inside of Steve Brown, can't get it done. Down into Chapman. And it's Ian Blake leading Brown. Harding, O'Connor, Holmes, gap to Williams. Brown going early, going for the lead. Cutting across the apexes and cutting across the nose of Ian Blake to take the lead. And opening up Ian to an attack by Jack Harding. Harding goes through to 2nd place. And this final is going to be allowed to run. So even though that start was a little bit scrappy, it's game on at the front of the elite class. Coming back through on Jack Harding is Ian Blake. He goes in deep though, and they're all losing ground on Steve Brown, who somehow, the champion after a quiet day, has come through to lead the final in that typically relaxed style. And he's already getting away. Ian Blake, I think they're suggesting to Jack Harding that they work together to run Brown down, because I think he's gone already. That looks like about 10 kart lengths to me. And I'm not entirely sure if anyone's got the pace to run him down. Joe Holmes pushes through, towing with him Pete O'Connor. And Jack Harding now finds himself in 5th place. And kart number, I think that was 16 or 18. Tom Golding off in the background. I wonder if Joe Holmes has picked up a penalty. Was that 16 or 18 I saw on the scoreboard? We'll have to wait and see to the finish now. It's gone. So it's Holmes in 3rd place, being dropped by Ian Blake because he's under pressure from Pete O'Connor, and Tyler Mays is off on the grass. And there's a hell of a battle going on in the mid-pack, and Steve Hicks is being punted off out of Parker. There's no point trying to call that one from here. There's just too many potential perpetrators. So this race settles down, and Tom Golding is pulled into pit lane and parked, probably disgusted. And he just walks off in disgust. So up at Christmas Corner, it's Steve Brown. He's not getting away now from Ian Blake, but I don't think Blake is running him down. Joe Holmes 3rd, Pete O'Connor, Jack Harding, Chris Powell. Gap then to Dan Healy. Big gap then to Jay Elliott, Parmveen Najjar, Matt Brooks, Jonathan Lister. Brandon Williams is sliding back through the field. I think that's David Longman, Jamie Crease, Dan Truman, I think. And that's down outside of the top 10. That's down your bottom, the top 15. And it looks as though Chris Powell, and we've lost another one. Brandon Williams seems to have called it a day for some reason. I suspect we will have quite a post-mortem on the forum. So running down 2nd place, Joe Holmes is closing in on Ian Blake, and perhaps Holmes is the only driver that might be able to run down Steve Brown. But he's got to get past Ian Blake first on the bumper. To be fair to Ian, I think he's just a tiny bit closer, but Holmes can't wait. He goes through, cuts across the nose, but Blake's going to fight it out and run him round the outside. Who will be getting into paddock first? It's Holmes. Holmes through to second place. But I've got a sneaky suspicion he might be running with a penalty. I could be wrong. It's either Holmes or Blake that's got one. It was 16 or 18. I saw a penalty board for him. But never mind, we'll let it go. So that change of position between Blake and Holmes has brought O'Connor, Harding and Powell back into play to make this a group of 5 running in second place and trying to run down Steve Brown. And Holmes is already stretching Ian Blake. He's not out of the slipstream yet, but it's not far from it when they're going up to Christmas Corner. Check out behind. There's Healy, Elliott, Parvina Jar, Matt Brooks, Jonathan Lissider, David Longman, Dan Truman, Jamie Crease, Tom Dix. It's been another quiet Sunday for Tom. Up to Christmas Corner. Truman looking to the inside of David Longman. Can't get it done. They'll be following each other down to Ashby. Brooks looking to the inside of Parvina Jar. Can he get it done into Ashby? Yes, he can. Any change up front? Oh, I think Joe Holmes is edging in. The gap on the last lap was 1.5 seconds between the race leader and Joe Holmes. Chris Powell has just picked off Pete O'Connor into the boot section. And the gap now is 1.1 seconds, so Joe Holmes is closing in at 0.4 of a second on that last lap. We may have a battle royal to the finish if Holmes can pick up that slipstream. 3 minutes, probably 4 laps. Or 3.5 maybe. And he's definitely closing in. I think we've got a race here for the win. And not unsurprisingly, tipped before the beginning of the season as a potential race winner. 16 has definitely got a penalty. That is Joe Holmes. I don't know if that's a second one he's picked up. It might be just an empiric victory on track, and then to lose it when the final result is published. But he's close to the bumper. I wonder if Steve Brown might even know that Joe's got a penalty and might just let him go. But he's in position to strike. It was half a second at start-finish on the last lap. It's not that now. He goes straight for it down the inside. Good move. Good, clean, hard move from Joe Holmes. Brown doesn't fight it too hard. I suspect he knows that he's got a penalty. To Christmas Corner. So Holmes, Brown, gap to Blake, gap to Powell now leading this trio. Jack Harding, Chris Powell, Jack Harding, Pete O'Connor I should say, gap to Jay Elliott, ahead of Dan Healy, Jonathan Lissider in 9th, Parvina Jar in 10th, and under pressure from David Longman. Tom Dix, Matt Brooks, kart number 12 is Dan Truman, Jamie Crease in kart 24, Tyler Mays and Ed Bars. The final lap board is out. It's clouding over here. It might yet threaten with rain. And it looks as though Steve Brown wants to win this one on track. Holmes goes to cover. There's a fight on behind as well. Jack Harding's gone back through on Chris Powell. Joe Holmes is holding off Steve Brown to the finish. Down at Chapman. There's really only 2 more passing spots. Into the boot and then into the toe. Holmes is going to win this one on track and possibly lose it if that penalty stands, that I think he has got. So it's Holmes from Brown, from Blake, from Jack Harding, Pete O'Connor, Chris Powell, Jay Elliott finishes in 7th, Daniel Healy is 8th, Jonathan Listener is 9th, Barnvina Jar is your top 10, Tom Dix, Matt Brooks, Daniel Truman, Jamie Crease, David Longman makes it the top 15. Tyler Mays, Ed Barr, Stephen Docker, Darren Teal, James Hattersley is the top 20. Stephen Hicks, David Waters, Brandon Williams and Tom Golding making a top 24, but certainly Brandon Williams and Tom Golding were not running at the finish.